Hello again. Welcome to episode 42 of Dinner from the Dining Car. Today is Saturday, September 4th, 2021. And Sarah, dear, our daughter Sarah, if you're watching this, happy birthday, sweetheart. Now today's recipe, it was actually a request from a user named John Gibson. He came up with a couple of items that sounded like they're really going to go well together. And he asked if I had the recipes. I said, yes, I did. So we're making them. The first one is Lobster a la Newberg from the New York Central. The second one is the Missouri, Kansas, Texas, the Katy Kornettes. Let me give you a little history. The Lobster Newberg, when the New York Central served this, they served it with one of two ways. One either on cornbread and the other on cooked egg noodles. The cooked egg noodles version was served mostly on the trains that go east-west. The cornbread type was served on the trains that go north to south and connect with other railroads that went into the south. Because we're also having the Kornettes with the Lobster Newberg, we're going to make the version that uses egg noodles. Now here's what you're going to need for the Lobster Newberg. First thing, of course, lobster. This is a little over a pound of pre-cooked lobster tails, already chunked up. I got this at Costco at a reasonable price, about $15 a pound. That's excellent for lobster in this area. If you're back east, you probably pay a whole lot less for lobster. If you're using an actual full-size lobster, boil it to cook it, let it cool, take the meat out of the shell, and chop it up into little tiny pieces like that. Next thing you're going to need, cream. You need a quart of cream. Well, I couldn't get quarts, but I got 2 pints. 2 pints equals a quart. You're also going to need 4 egg yolks. You're going to need several ounces of sliced mushrooms. You're going to need a little flour, and we'll get into that once we start cooking. You're going to need our old friend butter. You're also going to need, and I thought this was goofy, but hey, cornflakes. You're going to crush up some cornflakes and put it in this recipe. That sounded a little weird to me, but hey, it's in the recipe, so I'm going for it. And finally, you're going to need some salt and pepper. Salt, pepper. Finally, you're going to need egg noodles. Now you're going to cook these ahead of time because the Lobster Newberg gets baked and served on the egg noodles. That's it for the Lobster a la Newberg. The next is the Kornettes. For the Kornettes, you're going to need at least 1 pound of fine cornmeal. Do not get the coarse. The coarse is similar to eating little tiny pebbles. It's nasty stuff. No, this is the cornmeal, very fine, used specifically for baking or breading. You're going to need some sugar. Not that much, but you are going to need some. You're going to need a quart of milk. Now you're going to boil this to make the cornet batter. You're also going to need, again, our old friend butter. And you're going to need a couple of teaspoons of salt. Now this is, you'll notice I use pink. I use Himalayan pink. It's really good salt. Oh, could you hand me the new thing over there?
What new thing?
On top of the crystal. On the shelf there. Now, you're going to have to kind of bear with me, folks, in the box there. in the box, shelf, down below, the little box there. You're going to have to kind of bear with me, folks, because this recipe is going to require, the cornet recipe is going to require me to use something that I have never used in my life, because I don't make a whole lot of pastries. But you have to squeeze these out in a pastry bag. This is just the tips. The bags are underneath. So we'll wash out the tips and squeeze them out. And if that's too much work, well, we'll use a tablespoon and just plop them on the cookie sheet. You are going to need a cookie sheet to bake these cornets. You're going to need a baking pan for the Lobster Newberg, because after you get it all mixed together and everything, it's got to go into a greased baking pan in the oven. You're also going to need to lightly grease your cookie sheet, because these cornets, they're kind of like little tiny cornbread cookies, need to bake on a cookie sheet. That's about it. You're also, you're going to need your standard stuff like measuring spoons, measuring cups, blah, 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 blah. But you guys already know that. So that's all you need for this recipe. We'll be back a little bit later when it comes time to get this started. And as a side note, it's almost 100 degrees here in Burbank today. So this one's going to hurt, guys, because we got to use the oven. So we'll be back when I'm ready to cook. I'll be wearing my apron and my silly little hat. So we'll see you all then. Okay, folks, we're about to get started. We're going to start making the batter for the cornets first. So on our stove, we have boiling a quart of milk. Preheat your oven to 400 degrees. Now, what you do is you take your cornmeal, now you need a pound of it. This is a pound 8 ounces, so we're going to use about 2/3 of this. A little more. There, that's 2/3 of that, so that's approximately a pound. Then you're going to take half a cup of butter. Now a stick is half a cup of butter. So you're going to take your half a cup of butter, which has been sitting out, getting soft, and in this heat it's pretty quickly getting soft, not soft. Get a tablespoon of sugar, that's all your sugar, and you're going to get a teaspoon of the salt. Mix this up, especially since the butter has to melt. That you hear is the sound of the oven coming up to 400 degrees. How's our milk? The milk is boiling. Okay, wow, hot. Hot lid. I've decided to do something a little different. I'm not going to use the pastry bag because I don't want to make my first use of pastry bag on something this important. I want to experiment with them first. So there, you have your hot milk in with your batter. butter. Butter. God, I hope this thickens up soon. Now this has to stand for about 5 minutes so it cools off a little and also thickens up. Yes, it's starting to thicken up. I can feel that. So let's set that aside. While the butter melts.
Don't drop it.
I haven't dropped it yet. Walking the camera shot, maybe. Walking the camera shot. Come on, thicken up. And I'm just standing here stirring it, and we'll wait for it to kind of cool and thicken up. Meanwhile, we're going to get started on the lobster. You're going to grab a skillet. Let me move the camera so you all can see what I'm doing. That's nice. You're going to grab your cream. And flour. Actually, you're going to use your butter first. You're going to use about a half a stick of butter. You're going to use a large stirring spoon, or what they also like to call a basting spoon, of flour. We're going to dump that in here, and we're going to stir this together, and you're going to make a nice roux. For those wondering what the hell a roux is, it's basically some browned flour. Get a more butter. Maybe a little more butter. Perhaps I should wait until the butter melts. Roux. It'll come out a little pasty, but that's okay because it'll break down, and you're going to use this. This is going to get used to thicken up the lobster Newberg mixture. Then, once you have that, going to gradually work in your cream. Oh, while this is kind of cooking up, what you need to do then is you need to get your egg yolks. Now, I don't happen to have a little thing for dealing with the eggs, so we're going to separate these by hand, the old-fashioned way. We're going to use the whole eggs. Separated egg yolks by hand. This is a pain in the butt, especially when you break stuff over here. Rescue a little bit of it. Finally, number 4. Okay, there's your 4 egg yolks. Let's work in the other quart, the other pint of cream. Now, this may be just my personal opinion, but I think the guy who invented these kind of tops should spend eternity getting the whole thing. That's starting to thicken up. Starting to break down the clumps of flour from not having the butter melted completely. Should have waited to have that butter melted completely. And then you take your egg yolks and you're going to whisk them. And as you're whisking them, make sure they're whisked really well. You're going to drop them into the cream and flour and butter mixture. And once again, you're going to want to stir that around to incorporate it. Let me see if I can get a little closer with the camera shot. There we go. That's a little closer view of the food. Who wants to see me? You want to see the food. I know. That's more important anyway. Now that that's done, you want to add your sherry wine. You're going to take your same basting spoon. You're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spoons of the sherry. Now I'm using a medium sherry. If you wanted a little sweeter, you could use a sweet sherry. If you wanted a little drier, you could use a dry sherry. Now you'll notice this is starting to thicken up, which is exactly what you want to see. Between the egg yolks and the cream and the flour. The smell is intense. Then you're going to add pepper, and you just kind of wing it on the pepper, whatever looks right for you. Same with the salt. Whatever looks right to you. I think we got plenty right there. And now, as that's cooking, comes the fun. You're going to add your chunked lobster. Again, that's about a pound of chunked up lobster, but you can add a little more, a little less, whatever turns your crank. Now we're going to let this simmer for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll pour it into a greased casserole dish right here, hot. Greased casserole dish, and then we'll pop it in the oven. Again, 400 degrees, and that's going to go for about 20 to 25 minutes. At the same time, we'll pop in the. Yes, that is really starting to thicken up nicely. That is thickening up nicely. I'd add more flour, but I'm afraid it'll come out too floury and too thick, because it'll thicken up more as it's cooking as well. Oh wow. Oh wow. That's good stuff. That's really good stuff. So we're going to let that simmer for a bit. Meanwhile, we're going to come back over here to our cornet mix, which is thickened up nice enough. Maybe not. Oh, this does not bode well. This, I hope, thickens up real soon. Otherwise, we are going to be in trouble here, guys. So anyway, that's it for this step. What I'm going to do is we're going to let this simmer for about 15 minutes, and then we'll come back. The cornbread batter should have stiffened up, and this will go in the casserole, sprinkled with the crushed cornflakes, and they'll both go into the oven at the same time. And they'll be in the oven for an additional 20 or so more minutes. So, in that event, we'll see y'all in a little while, and we'll assemble the rest of this and get her in the oven. We'll see you then. Okay, we're back. It's about 20 to 25 minutes later. We've got a greased cookie sheet. The batter for the Kornettes, if you take a look at it, is really nice and thick. Now, it's a little too thick to be shoving through a pastry bag, so we're going to use the alternative method of spooning it out. Just little lumps of cornbread cookies. I don't know how many this is going to make. I'm assuming it'll make at least 9 or 10. And so far, we're looking good. Yeah, this will make 9. Oh, those are going to be 9. If a little small. Make sure we scrape it all out of the bottom, Yeah, this one might be a little small. That one might be a little small. There we go, folks. Now these, let me bring them over and show them to you. They're just like little cornbread cookies. These will go in the oven right now, 400 degrees, while that oven's hot. All right, now we get the lobster into the baking dish. One thing I have to do first, the mushrooms. Okay. Is you have to stir in some of the mushrooms. Now this is an 8-ounce package. Want to just use it all?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to use the whole 8-ounce package, except for the one that just flew off and hit the floor. And you just fold this in. This is thickening up really nice, by the way, and the smell is outstanding. Yeah, I don't know if you heard Judy said we sampled it a little bit earlier, and the taste is even better. Oh my. It's thickening up very nicely. Oh my goodness. Taste that now. Okay, again, we have our greased casserole dish. Just make sure the grease is like all over the place. Oh, fly swatter just committed suicide. Then, we're going to take the... Am I on? Yes. Oh, before we do that, there's one other thing we need to do. We got to crush up some cornflakes. This is going to be kind of fun, especially if you have any aggressions you need to get out, because I use a kitchen mallet. Actually, this is I use it for pounding meat. It's actually an auto body mallet that I have washed and made sure is really clean.
Well, it's never been used on auto.
Yeah, Judy's right. We've never used it on a car, so it's only ever been used for cornflakes. How much cornflakes do we need? Wow, quite a bit. I better get a big zipper bag. And you need to get a lot of cornflakes. Up to and not including, I guess, about half the box. Yeah. And you just seal them up. And here's where it gets fun. Here's to idiots at work. Here's to the government. Here's to the IRS. Here's to the state of California. Until you've got some very finely crushed cornflakes. Here's what you need to do now. You need to carefully, and I do mean carefully, pour the Oh, Jesus! See what I mean? Oh, damn! It twisted my right wrist.
Are you okay?
No. Damn it. Well, we can take some of that and scoop it into the... Because I find my spoon. There's lobster in there, and I don't want to waste that. Thank God this griddle that I put it on is clean. This makes me angry. Twisted my wrist. That's gonna be a mess. Gonna? No, it's already a mess. Crap. Oh good, I didn't get any on the floor. I did manage to get it all over the oven. Alright. And you cover that. Oh, thank you. You gotta come over here with your cornflakes. And just start sprinkling cornflakes all over the top. That's a lot of cornflakes. Just make sure you cover them up with the cornflakes. Makes me so mad. Alright, now these also go into the nice 400-degree oven. Oh my! Oops. Don't drop it, I know. You don't have to drop it. Alright. And then you'll set your timer for about 25 minutes, maybe a little more. And then we'll come back, get it out, plate it up, and you'll see what's happening. We'll see you then. Okay, we're back. Timer just went off, and we're going to get everything out of the oven. The Kornettes, well, they flattened out a little bit, and they really cooked. And now for the Lobster Newberg, which smells insane. Oh, that's bubbling and boiling and all sorts of yummy. Let me bring the camera over here so you guys can see this. This looks great. That lid is hot. There is your Lobster Newberg, bubbling and boiling. Right behind it, you'll see the egg noodles, already cooked. And over here is the Kornettes. Yummy stuff. Okay, now we're going to plate this up. Move the camera back to where it's supposed to be. Sorry, I'm blocking the view here for a minute. Oh, come on.